Mirasee. There was once a king who offered a prize to the person who could paint the perfect picture of peace. Many people tried, artists and non-artists alike. They brought their pictures to the palace and they filled many rooms. The king looked at all the pictures, and it took several days to go through them all. After much deliberation, he was down to the last two. He had to choose between them. Hi, I'm Lisa Bloom, the story coach, and you're listening to Once Upon a Business. In each episode, we explore a story, a fairy tale, folk tale, or traditional story, so that we can discover the amazing lessons relevant for business and for entrepreneurs. So the king was left with two pictures, and he had to choose the winner, the perfect picture of peace. The first picture was of a calm lake. The lake was a perfect mirror for the peaceful mountains that towered around it. Overhead, fluffy white clouds floated in a blue sky. Everyone who saw this picture said that it was indeed the perfect picture of peace. The second picture, it had mountains too, but these mountains were rugged and bare. Above them was an angry sky from which rain crashed down, lightning flashed, and down the side of the mountain tumbled a foaming waterfall. This did not appear to be a peaceful place at all, but when the king looked closely, he saw that behind the waterfall was a tiny bush growing in the rock. Inside the bush, a mother bird had built her nest. There, in the midst of the rush of angry water, sat the mother bird on her nest. She was the perfect picture of peace. The king chose the second picture because, he explained, peace is not only in a place where there's no noise, trouble, or hard work. Peace is in the midst of things as they are, but when there's calm in your heart. That's the real meaning of peace. This is a story that I've told many, many times over the years, and it's with kind permission of the wonderful storyteller Susie Wolf. The story resonates with me for many reasons. It's short and very powerful. What's interesting to me is that there's an assumption that the first picture would be the winner because it seems so perfect, everything in place, the sun shining, and everything calm and beautiful. And yet the king is intrigued by the second picture, where the external view is one of great storm and disquiet, yet the peace comes from within, almost hidden. I think it relates to the idea that perhaps we need to dig deeper, that what presents on the surface isn't always what it seems. In business, we've all experienced being sold what seems like the perfect offer, the slick, beautiful website with the right-sounding language, and yet sometimes the service doesn't live up to the offer. As business owners, I think we need to spend time creating what's visible to make it beautiful and appealing, but equal or perhaps even more time making sure that the quality of what we offer and the service experience is excellent, if not perfect. I'm also struck by the idea that the great storm can reveal an amazing calm, a perfect peace, perhaps suggesting that it's in the great challenges that we face in life and in business that we can also find great learning and growth. I remember working in a job many years ago where the culture of the organization was really toxic. The senior leadership didn't communicate honestly with the employees or even with each other, and so there was vast distrust throughout the entire company. I was brought in at a time of great change where many people were losing their jobs and many functions were being outsourced. For me, the whole experience was a great storm. After just a few months, I started getting terrible headaches and realized how badly the stress was affecting me. And yet, even in the midst of this great storm, I was learning so much about how the company worked, how not to create a toxic culture, and the essence of terrible management, and so much more. And I actually connected with one of the middle managers, and together we created a calm, safer place where we could at least talk, help each other cope with what was going on around us, and actually learn from the experience. Ultimately, it was an incredible learning experience and a learning period for me that was enhanced by the creation of this safe, peaceful place within the storm. I think the story speaks to certain interpretations of the word peace and the meaning of peace. At first, we see peace as being this calm and beautiful place, and really the connection that most people have to peace as being just that. And then the king discovers peace in the midst of a great storm, in the calmness of the mother bird, sitting on the nest and protecting her eggs. And then I think maybe if we think in the perspective of the mother bird, maybe for her peace is being protected and being secure because she's hidden behind this wild waterfall, and in the midst of the storm, she's protected and she's able to do the thing she needs to do most, which is protect her nest. I think when we apply this to our thinking around our businesses and our clients, we shouldn't assume what any specific thing means to them, what peace means to them. It may mean calm and quiet, and it may mean security and safety. And so it speaks to really understanding your audience well and understanding what are the conditions that they need in order to be able to do the work you want to do with them, or what are the conditions they need in order to feel the transformation that you offer them. It may not be our version of what that is. As a business owner, you have to be clear that your audience may interpret what you do slightly differently, but may have needs that you can't anticipate until you actually go out and ask them and get super clear from them what it is that they need in order to be able to take the next step and work with you. I'm also curious about the king. At the start of the story, he wants a picture of peace. It tells us that he has an interest in achieving this state of peace, and yet perhaps he also has an idea that he can somehow own peace, that it's a possession or something that can be contained somehow in a frame and hung on a wall. It would suggest that maybe he has a strange relationship to peace as only a concept. And yet by the end of this story, he sees something that many don't. He chooses the picture that has a hidden meaning, that suggests a depth and a wisdom that's quite unexpected. I've met many entrepreneurs that want to own their space, to somehow assert their leadership and their ownership on a whole area of business. It's almost absurd. I love the message that this story tells us, that there's no owning peace. There's no ownership of an entire business environment, but instead deep wisdom that shows us that things of value are there to be seen by all and experienced by those who have the vision and the insight to see what might not be in clear view. I've worked in organizations and business areas where people are super territorial, where they're reluctant to share information or to collaborate, and it's a harsh place to work and a demoralizing path to navigate. I think this story teaches us that you don't need to have this approach. Wisdom is within, in the quiet places, even in the center of a great storm. Peace is possible, gentleness and calm is available, and you can share and collaborate and be generous. One of my hesitations in sharing this story is that it brought up for me that situation that we sometimes see in social media or in the news where something awful happens, a terrible storm, and people outpour this thought and prayers. You're in my thoughts and you're in my prayers. And in those situations, I sometimes think, thoughts and prayers, well, it's just not enough. It doesn't cut it. I think specifically of cases where there's been shootings in schools and people are sending thoughts and prayers. And I'm thinking, we don't need thoughts and prayers. We need gun regulation, or we don't need thoughts and prayers. We need the end of war. And particularly nowadays where there seems to be one awful disaster after another and, some terribly harsh things happening in the news. Somehow this story seems a little flippant, like in the midst of a great storm, we can just have beautiful thoughts and prayers and all will be well. And yet at the same time, and the reason I do share this story, I really honestly believe that our state of mind, our state of heart matters. And if we can be in a place amidst dreadful things happening, amidst chaos and pain and trouble and suffering, and yet still be in a place of calm and peace, then we are doing a service to those around us and to the situation and to the energy that's put out into the world. We can choose how we want to show up in any of these situations. We are responsible for our emotions, our reactions, and being peaceful and calm is always an option, no matter how hard our situation is, no matter how harsh the environment is around us. And that's not to say that it's easy or it's just a simple switch of your mind. It can be very hard. And yet, if we have that intention and if we have the faith and the ability to really apply ourselves to raising our own energy and to being in a place of calm and peace, then I do believe it has an influence. Maybe it won't stop a war today. Maybe it won't reverse the sad and tragic things that have happened in the past. But I do believe it contributes to a better place moving forward, to the better world that we all wish and hope and pray for. I'm Lisa Bloom, and you've been listening to Once Upon a Business. You can find out more about me at story-coach.com. That's story-coach.com. Once Upon a Business is part of the Mirasee FM podcast network, which also includes such shows as Just Between Coaches and Course Lab. This episode of Once Upon a Business was produced by Cynthia Lamb. Jeff Govertson assembled the episode. Danny Inney is our executive producer. Post-production was by Post Office Sound. So you don't miss the episodes that are coming up on Once Upon a Business, please follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening right now. And if you like the show, please leave us a starred review. It really does help us out. Thank you. We'll see you next time.